Former CNN journalist, now independent journalist, Don Lemon has been arrested for his role in the Minnesota church storming on the eve of Martin Luther King Day. Now, some say this violates his First Amendment freedom of speech. I don't think so. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Don Lemon being arrested for his role in the Minnesota church storming that happened just one day before Martin Luther King Day. And to be specific, this was at City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, I am glad this happened. I say it's about time because he was most certainly involved with the protest, in my humble opinion. The excuse of, oh, I'm a journalist, I'm just covering it, that doesn't really fly. Let me ask you a question. If someone tells you that they are going to go rob a bank and they want you to go cover the bank robbery as it's happening inside the bank, and you do it, is that a crime? Is it illegal? Or can you just say, I'm a journalist? Yes, they told me of the crime they were going to commit before they committed it. I didn't say anything. I intentionally kept quiet. I did a live stream in which I was alluding to something, but I didn't say what it was. And then once the crime happened, I'm inside during the crime and I'm interviewing the victims. That's not how that works. There are laws against this. You have the FACE Act, the KKK Act, and some more stuff. And before I go any further, let's get straight to the news clip. Of course, I will link to everything in the description if you want to see it and hear it without my commentary. If you're on IG, Facebook, etc., visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Breaking news now, just into our CNN newsroom. We are learning journalist, former colleague of ours, former CNN anchor, Don Lemon, has been taken into custody, arrested just days after a protest inside a Minneapolis church. Now, he has maintained that he was going in as a journalist to cover the protest. Let's get right to CNN's Kara Scannell, and CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter is also here with us. Kara, what are you learning first about this arrest that we should note? A judge, a magistrate judge, had rejected the federal government's attempt to put him under arrest just 1 week or so ago.
Sarah, that's right. We had reported that earlier this week that the magistrate judge had rejected an attempt by DOJ to bring criminal charges against Don Lemon. What we have learned is that last night in Los Angeles, in the 11 o'clock hour, Don Lemon was arrested in the hotel lobby in Beverly Hills and taken into custody. Now, it is not clear at this time what he is charged with, or if he is charged in a criminal complaint, or if he is charged in an indictment which would have been returned by a grand jury. But it does appear to be connected to that because, as we reported earlier this week,
It was a grand jury, by the way.
Attorney General Pam Bondi was livid that Lemon was not charged at the time. It appeared that they were going to continue to try to bring charges against him. And now we know that Lemon was arrested last night in Los Angeles, where he was in town to cover the Grammys. I do have a statement from his attorney, Abby Lowell, and it says in part, Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing this work. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed two peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. Now, we do expect Lemon to make an appearance in court today. That is usually the process that follows when someone is arrested, and then it will be up to the judge whether he gives him bail, which would be expected in this case. So we're likely to learn more details about exactly what he is charged with, what form he is charged in, and if this was returned by a grand jury. And then we'll see potentially Lemon later today, but he's being held and has been held overnight in Los Angeles unarrested on some charges that appear to be related to Minneapolis. Sarah?
There we go. Now, we got a lot to get through. Here's a statement right here. You could pause it if you want to read it, but that's pretty much what you just read right there. If you want to pause it, you could read it. Now, here is one of the videos that Don Lemon made while he was inside the church. Now, there are so-called protesters shutting the church service down, which is illegal. We'll get to that in a minute. Don is, in my humble opinion, participating in this because he's asking questions, cameras in the face, and it's antagonistic. It's not a matter of covering it. It's a matter of you are the media portion of the protest. Let's just watch this, shall we?
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
That's not the way that it works in the church, bro. That's not the way it works in the church at all. We'll get to that in a minute.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here.
Man, look, all of this leaning into me, don't touch me, don't push me in the church. Like, listen, as I've said before, as others have said, this wouldn't go down in a lot of churches, in a lot of places of worship. Hey, try that in the mosque. Ain't gonna happen. Try that black church. Ain't gonna happen. Try that Southern church. Don't matter black, white, whatever. Ain't gonna happen. In my face, antagonistic, interviewing me? No. No. And I don't want anyone to try to do that. Now, this video is before he went into the church, but he was in the area. This, in my humble opinion, is evidence of the pre-planning, which could be called conspiracy.
Into Minneapolis a little bit ago and did some reconnaissance on the ground, speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we're like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? Saw the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up, and it's Takima Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, you can't tell you where they're going.
After we do this operation, I can't tell you where we're going. See, you're involved with it. You can't just say, I'm a journalist. I didn't do nothing. I was just covering the protest. I was just, First Amendment. Nah, you're part of it. They told you that we're going to go commit a crime, and you intentionally withheld the information. Now, you could say you didn't know it was a crime. You can say that you were ignorant, but you can't say that because you're on stream actively trying to hide what you knew, which, again, in my humble opinion, lets me know you were pre-planning this, there's conspiracy involved, and you knew that it might not be all the way 100% legal. Okay? Now, here's Don Lemon after the church storming, giving some remarks outside the church.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. And, I imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful. It's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But that's what really, careful, please. Really slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about. And so, watch this guy.
Okay, so it's totally fine. It's traumatic for kids to be in this church with you guys all in their face, screaming and hollering, carrying on. That's what it's all about, though, right? Oh, okay. Well, you're going to find out what the penitentiary is all about. You're going to find out what it's like to go to the, okay. Look, now, here he is taunting the DOJ after he was not arrested initially, because the people who are right there, some of those individuals that he was talking about in that, in the outside shot, the woman he named, she got arrested. Some of them got arrested. But maybe he thought he was bulletproof because he did not get arrested right when they got arrested.
Look, I stand proud and I stand tall. This is not a victory lap for me because it's not over. They're going to try again, and they're going to try again. And guess what? Here I am. Keep trying. That's not going to stop me from being a journalist. You're not going to diminish my voice. Go ahead. Make me into the new Jimmy Kimmel if you want. Because I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to believe the same things, whether you want to, whatever. None of this is about justice. This is about power, and it's about people who are incompetent. Look,
Okay, there we go. So that's him taunting. So you got what you wanted, bro. You said keep trying. Well, here we are. Now, let's get to the law, because we can talk about whatever. Everybody got an opinion. Everybody got their 2 cents. Let's talk about what the law says. So here's the first one, the FACE Act. 18 U.S. Code, Section 248, Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, FACE, FACE Act. Now, some may just read that headline and say, oh, ABL, that's about abortion facilities. It's not just about abortion facilities. Let's actually read beyond the headline, shall we? Let's go. You see right here, prohibited activities. Whoever, let's skip down to 2. Prohibited activities, whoever by force or threat of force or by physical obstruction intentionally injures, intimidates, or interferes with, or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any persons lawfully exercising or seeking to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship, or 3, intentionally damages or destroys the property of a facility or attempts to do so because such facility provides reproductive health services, or intentionally damages or destroys the property of a place of religious worship. What does that mean? Church, mosque, synagogue, temple, any place like that, which is what they did. And we have another one, 42 U.S. Code, Section 1985, conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. And this is a longer one, obviously, but the main thing right here, depriving persons of rights or privileges. Now, this kind of goes into what the same thing that the other one says, but it's just a different law, a different act, and you could be punished differently depending upon how they go about it. Either way it goes, as I close, Don Lemon, you are in trouble. You are in trouble here. You didn't just engage in journalism. I support journalists and their right to lawfully do things, but what you cannot do, and I'm sure he didn't know any better because Don Lemon is a moron. He don't know nothing. I'm sure that'd be his excuse, right? Oh, I didn't know that I couldn't do that. I didn't know that was illegal. Well, there's a principle in the law, ignorance shall not excuse that, which means ignorance of the law is no excuse. You can't say, I didn't know that was illegal and found a way to get off. That's not the way that works. You, Don Lemon, and everyone else need to be held accountable. What you did was inexcusable. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your politics are, but you should leave places of worship alone. That includes churches, mosques, synagogues, whatever. And if you go to the wrong church, your penalty may be worse in the church in that moment than what the federales are going to give you. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about Don Lemon in this whole situation? Should he go to the penitentiary? Should he be held accountable? Is his First Amendment right to be a journalist, freedom of speech, is that being violated here? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. You have the freedom of speech. You have the First Amendment. However, just because you have certain rights does not mean that your rights automatically supersede someone else's, because they're in a church worshiping. When you interfere with that, you're violating their right to freedom of speech, to religious freedom. You can't do that. You cannot do that. And it's not just a matter of opinion. It is expressly outlined in law. These are not obscure laws that don't get used. Like I said earlier, Beverly and Biddy went to the penitentiary for doing something like this, but there was nowhere near egregious as what you guys did. She was by herself out there. You guys went, Don Lemon, speaking to you right now, you guys went as a unit. You knew of a plan beforehand. You didn't tell anybody, and you joined in. You participated in the whole situation. You could say you didn't, but you did. And that's why you're locked up. And again, I hope you get held accountable, because we cannot have this kind of behavior in the US of A. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.